Welcome to another episode of the Journeyman Co. Welcome everybody to another podcast. It's been a little bit of a minute. Boys have been busy. Jeff's been coaching the Belgium Sevens after a very successful little camp in Toulon. So welcome back to everyone. Thanks for all your support. Please remember to like and subscribe if you do like the podcast. If you don't, well, anyway. Welcome boys. Good to see you. It's obviously
Speak your mind.
It's been a while. Good to see you boys. Obviously been quite busy, with it's always a little bit challenging this time of year, trying to figure out what we're doing next season. Jeff's obviously got the coaching gig with Belgium. That's been going really well. And tonight we've got a very special guest. Obviously we played with him, Marcus, at Wasps, and now you with him in Italy. He's an unbelievable rugby player. Someone I've always admired, from his Super Rugby days, Mr. Malakai Fekitoa, All Black, Tongan international, Tongan Sevens player. I think he did one tournament to qualify, but really good to talk to Mala.
Yeah, legend of a bloke. I've played with him now for, I think, 5 years it would be. With 1 year he spent in Ireland was my first season here. So I know him pretty well. Really good team, man. Tough as question. Can we swear on this? I don't actually know. Have we been swearing?
Go for it.
Yeah,
go for it.
tough as fuck. Tough as fuck. Yeah, he's tough as fuck. He's real professional as well. So be great to have him on. Obviously been to quite a few different places, different cultures. And also he's had a hell of a rugby journey, so it'd be good to speak to him just about that.
Beautiful.
I'm excited. I mean, our first All Black. It's our first. Hey, listen, the pod's growing. The journeyman, we find them everywhere. And Toko is really a journeyman, playing for 2 different countries, now over in Italy. So I'm very, very excited to hear what the Toko has to say today. I'm very, very excited. So let's go for it. Let's go.
Jeff, just before we cut to Mala, talk to us about how the Belgium Sevens camp went, buddy, down in Toulon.
Yeah, it was very good. It was my first camp, obviously, with the guys. And I went and spent a couple of days in Belgium, in Brussels. And then we met with the staff, had a nice dinner with everyone. It was fantastic. I stayed at my manager's house. Happens to be the husband of the president of Belgium. So that works out well. It was really nice. So we had a nice little base there. And it was fantastic. The guys are really, really cool. You must remember, I've been thinking and planning this for a couple months now. And even before that, it's something in the works now for 6 years, I would say, since I left Sevens. I always thought, how would I run a program? I've spoken to about 6 different coaches, including you guys, about pros and cons, listening to all the guys we've had on the pod, all the advice. And I formulated a camp, and we've got another 4 to go, basically, another 4 to go. And then we're into the European Championships, and we're playing against GB. We've got Spain, we've got France in our pool. So it's going to be a good one. And myself and Marcus played in a couple of those European tournaments back in the day, and we actually won it twice, European champions. It's a tough thing to do, because when you send out the unions like Great Britain, Ireland, they'll send a mixed team, a mixed bag of fruits. There'll be a lot of their pro players, a lot of their guys coming through, development players. So it's a good time to test ourselves. But I'm happy. I've got Tobias Matson coming with me to the next camp in Geneva, which is going to be fantastic to let Tab share everything with me, to watch me, to observe me, to help the boys. It's fantastic that he can give that sort of time. So I'm excited. That's probably one of the biggest things in my career so far, is getting to work with Tabs for the weekend. I'm buzzing. Yeah, I'm buzzing.
Oh, did you send Marcus your clip of you coaching?
Just about to say, how good is it to see Jeff flicking between a bit of French and a bit of English?
Amazing. But the energy, bro, I would want to play for someone like that.
That was I text you saying.
But the subtitles on the video were a little bit
Yeah, there was
A couple
one thing.
baguettes in there. Yeah, they weren't correct.
Yeah, there was one thing that was well off.
Forget.
But yeah, what did I text you, Jeff? I just said that makes me want to coach with Jeff or something. I can't remember.
No,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah, I
honestly,
can't remember.
that's class, Jeffy. So
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. That's why I sent it to you guys. I just wanted to get some like a feedback. I felt a little bit like it's hard watching yourself in those moments. And one of the guys is a great vlogger. He's Gaspar. He's a great sevens player. Knows North well, and he's our captain. And he does these videos. He like videos the sessions, and he videos some of his training, and he posts it on Instagram. Quite a nice channel he has. He makes good podcasts too in French. And he videoed this and he sent it over to me. And I was surprised. I didn't know he was recording this. I saw him put a mic on me, of course, but I didn't know he was. So when you watch it back, you're a little bit like, it's a bit cringy. I'm like, Jeff, calm down a bit, my buddy. But this is pre-game. You understand? So we're about to go into our second game of the weekend. But it's a tournament, but I'm using it as a camp. We're trying to adapt and all that. So it was great fun. It was great to watch.
Nice, Jeffy.
Yeah,
Talks.
Hey, lads.
So, Malakai Fekitoa, welcome, Talks, to the Journeyman Code podcast. It's obviously, such a massive privilege to have you on this evening, to be talking to you. You're a player that I respect profoundly. I've followed your career since you started off playing Super Rugby in New Zealand. I had the incredible opportunity of playing with you at Wasps, and you're an incredible human being, incredible rugby player, and we're so honoured to have you join us here tonight. I know that whoever listens to this podcast is going to gain a lot of insight from you, and I'm sure they'll learn a lot. So, Malaboy, thank you so much for being on, my brother.
Nah, thanks for having me. Look, I'm really excited to be here and have a chat with you boys. So, looking forward to it.
Thanks, Mala. So just before we kind of get into, we want to really touch on like kind of your journey from Tonga to New Zealand, and, you've had an incredible rugby career. But just before we get into that, how is it going with your young family in Treviso? How are you finding Italy?
Yeah.
Obviously, Benetton are flying this season. You two boys, eh? You boys are really doing well. How are you finding life and rugby in Italy?
Yeah, look, obviously Mark has been here a couple years now, and he knows more than me. But so far, I've been here 6 months now, and look, a perfect move for us as a family. Quite relaxed, chilled life. Obviously, on and off the field as well. We are loving it. The weather is getting better and warmer. Look, the people are very, very nice, and obviously food as well is probably the best thing. We're enjoying it, man. And obviously my partner, my fiance Claudia, she's Spanish, so very close to home. In terms of culture and the way of life, and close to home as well. Just over an hour to get back. So no, it's been really good, man. And been around the world, but I thought this is the place. So it's going great so far. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, because I know, like, you boys will know as well, from like France, Italy, the carbs, boy. You go there and you pick up 5. So you're staying away from the pizza, boy.
Guy doesn't need to worry about it, bro. He's in good shape.
I'll just get on Marcus' program.
Carbs and siestas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, bro. I'm happy. I'm so happy for you guys. I'm happy you're enjoying life in Italy. Obviously, it's a very special country for many people, and their rugby's really growing. So it's great to see you boys are doing well down there. So just to take it right back, Mala, right back to your time in Tonga. We obviously know you grew up in Tonga, Tongan descent, and you went over to Wesley College. Is that correct? Wesley College, and you kind of came through the Auckland system. Marcus was actually telling me you didn't feel 100% confident speaking English until you got to Wasps. Is that right?
Yeah. We actually spoke about that last week. I think a couple of weeks ago. Because a lot of the boys obviously spoke about Italian, and we talked about how many people really understood us, and trying to talk in English and stuff. And I mentioned to Marcus, like, look, I didn't really get comfortable talking until I got to WASP, to have a normal conversation around the boys, and for me, probably the hardest part in my career, just trying to get by and, just get amongst the boys, try to obviously get to know the boys as well as playing as well, you know what I mean? So I think that's the hardest part. And, but yeah, this not long ago in WASP,
Yeah, so
my first year. So
yeah, so to go back to that, then how was that transition from Tonga to New Zealand to Wesley College, which is obviously a massive rugby school? How was that transition from you away from your family? Because we know the Island boys, you are very
yeah.
family orientated,
Mm.
much about the family unit. How was your move to New Zealand and getting into the Auckland and Blues setups?
Yeah, like, obviously, as you mentioned, like, to leave home, it's tough as a young kid. I left at 15, looking for a better opportunity for me, my life, to better myself and to get better a life for my family. So obviously, most of us, all the Polynesian boys, whether from Tonga, Fiji, or Samoa, we're lucky enough. Rugby was our main provide for all our families, and for me, it was no different. Um, 15, I got a scholarship to go to Auckland, but there was a couple of schools. There was in Auckland, in the city, or in counties Manukau, Wesley College. And I had a little conversation with the guy at the time. What's the difference? And I remember back then he started job naming players. He said, "Oh, the big Jonah went there." Lamu, uh, uh, all the Charles Peter and his brothers, any top Fijians, Siribatu went to that school. Most of the, obviously, most talented All Blacks players came out of Wesley. Funny enough, I found out later that the school was only made out of 300 people, students, and half of them pretty much all played rugby, and half of them all came out and played for, either All Blacks or Wallabies or, look at Sekope Kepu for Australia. So what I'm saying is that, it was tough to leave home, but I found a second home in Wesley because, a lot more, guys that look alike and obviously understood me as a person, as Tongans, because half of the boys were Tongans, even though they were born in New Zealand. So I felt it was the right move for me, just to give me a little hands all around school in terms of translating and around the rugby pitch as well. So I think that will help me a lot, if you know what I mean, during my time.
Yeah, because bro, I remember you telling me how I didn't know this, but when you'd gone over when you were 15, that you couldn't speak English. So it was like it's crazy. Like it's mad for me. I've only known you obviously being fluent, and I didn't know that you came over to New Zealand knowing no English, and then you told me it took you. You said like 3 years to like start even speaking. So you just said for the first 3 years you were basically talking to your Tongan mates and trying to learn English.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, you're right, and like I said, like lucky enough there was a few Tongans around, but when you leave home,
Mm.
I was so determined to make it into rugby, and that was everything for me. And even though I didn't really understood the plan or whatever I got told, but I work with my instinct. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I knew the only way through is to work hard and just go get it done. If you know what I mean. Even though I didn't really understand the whole rugby thing about in terms of my role within the team because of the language barrier, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And as well as making friendship around the team. So I was the guy who's always on the side. But lucky enough, my ability got me through, and the work ethic around rugby that kept me going. So yeah.
Yeah, bro, that must have been so difficult, man, as a 15-year-old,
that's
going to a new country, no family, without being able to speak the language, and obviously to get as far as you obviously got or have got so far. At that age, I feel like that's sink or swim when you're sort of 15. If you go over to a new country, it's like you either panic and want to go home, or you pretty much go full into it and look where you are now, which is testament to
Yeah.
yourself. But then another story you told me, bro, that I wanted to get into a little bit is you had an injury, a bad injury when you were real young, didn't you? I remember you saying, am I right in saying you said you were paralyzed for a little bit? Can you talk me through that, because that's a crazy story as well. I don't think that many people know.
Yeah, look, obviously, I told the story many times now. It was my hip fell. Those old school doors back in Tongan at the time. It was like the only one hall in the village where everyone gathered together to obviously make a town call for whatever it is, or a business decision, or whatever it is. It's like a big meeting one, but like it's way way past its time. And then as a kid, like you just you go there every single meeting, and you run around and play with your mates. And obviously I got caught, and I remember this is a very long time ago when I was younger. Remember that I couldn't move. I remember for so long, my mom and dad had to take me to another. It's like not a doctor, but like those island traditional way of
Hmm.
treating.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So we remember getting put in a wooden or sort of older bathtub type uh, water thing that it's warmed, and also obviously put leaves and stuff like that around my leg for uh, for so long. And every time we would go to the place, and I would never wanted to go get in the house, and they had to help held me down. They either take my cousins or my brothers to to hold me down, even though, if you know what I mean, because I was that
Mm.
scared to go in. Probably more painful the treatment than what happened to me, if you know what I mean. Like, had no clue what it was, but when I made it into the All Blacks, there was a family, a Tongan family, and said that a son was in there in the house when the whole time I had the treatment.
Oh
He told
wow.
me the story after I met him after one of the game.
Oh, that's
Uh,
unreal.
yeah, it's crazy. And some of their cousins are playing in France now as well. And from their line of family, that's where Lomo are from.
Oh wow, we.
Ooh.
I'm not kidding. Yeah, so it's funny. Like all those families are still there, and every time we go back, they will tell the story of what happened to me. But I think that was the first test, if you know what I mean. Like probably the first uh, test for me as a young kid to go through. And I think when I grew up, through all the tough decisions or occasions I've been through in rugby, I think one of those, when I got pulled through it earlier in my life, I it was sort of like a easier every now, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Towards now in my career, because of those little tests, if you know what I mean, through
Yeah.
my life. From their injuries to Wesley, to being, trying to make it in, and said in all those tough times, probably helped me out a lot
Yeah. Sure.
throughout my career.
And Mala, just on that, Boyki, just before we kind of get to the professional part of your journey and everything you've been through, just you mentioned that when you went to Wesley, you were obviously really determined to make it, as a rugby
Mm.
player. We know how incredible the island, the Polynesian rugby players are, the Tongans, the Samoans, the Fijians as well. Where does that kind of come from? Are you boys playing rugby very young age on the islands? Do you guys want to be professional rugby players or represent your countries? How is it growing up in Tonga with so many prolific athletic rugby players? Where does that determination come from?
Like, to answer your questions, like, whether we wants to play for Tonga, probably not. To be honest with you, as a young kid, you just pick up the ball. Obviously it's the main sport at first, and then second, like, you just pick up the ball and play with your mates, and you play at a young age, and you throw the ball around, and you never really think about being a professional, if you know what I mean. In a small island, let's say where I'm from, it's 8 hours away from the mainland, and there's no rarely rugby competition or it get picked up from their island, if you know what I mean. So I was one of the first to sort of come out from the island to make it through professional. But I remember when I was a kid, like, you don't really think too far ahead, man. Like, you don't know ever you're gonna leave the island or go overseas, if you know what I mean. So but you watch a lot of rugby on TVs and that as you dream, but you never thought it's possible, if you know what I mean. So, but in terms of the talent, the Island boys always had it, if you know what I mean. Like, with the size, the skill set, they've always over the years, there's always the boys coming through, and I think that's what we were quite lucky with. Just probably not the pathway, or haven't been easier for some. I believe the talent and the skill set and everything like that, all the boys have got back in Ireland. So I guess when you really want to make it into a better life for your family, I guess that's what they've always wanted, and that's why the determination come out of the boys. You can see they're hungry to play, just because they want to, put food on the table for their family. So.
Yeah, Mala, just jumping in there. What's the process? How do they find you? How do the colleges find the young talent? Because for me, it's interesting. In South Africa, it's very similar in a way. It becomes a very much like when you get to 16, 17. In England too, you sort of get scouted. So how is it happening in the islands? Do you have scouts out in Tonga, watching you play, and then offer you bursaries, or how does it work?
Yeah, look, it's all the same nowadays. It's a little bit easier now than when I started. Like, it's my brother, so my brother in France here. Like, it was probably one of the first ones to sort of come out of Tonga in the late 2000, if you know what I mean. So it was rare,
Yeah.
but mainly Japan. So the scout, the Japanese leagues, clubs, and university, they take now the boys at 13 or 12, 13 now earlier, because of obviously the rules now with the 5 year stand down, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
they take the boys earlier. So they're very, they're very, very big on that. And there's mostly the Japanese guys coming over now. But yes, the process, it's similar nowadays with all other places. Once you get good, obviously there's no tape or there's no YouTube or anything like that, but it goes word by mouth. Either ex-players, go back to our people as well. Some of the guys who never really make it to proper professional, but some of the guys will make a certain teams, or even just go out of Tonga. They always have the love for the island boys, or for their family, or for the guys. Sometimes it's not even their families. They go back and pick up some of those boys, young boys. Let's say, I was different, but many stories I've heard that a guy who went to France, played probably two, stayed, lived, and then he brought back the young boys. So the connect to the thought, it's always usually an ex-player, or someone who have coached some Tongans in certain part of the New Zealand, Aussie, or in Japan, and then they heard someone in Tonga. Okay, this kid is going to be amazing. So they picked him up straight away out of you know, trust, of just hoping that there will be they'll be good one day, and usually they come out good.
Yeah.
How much is, just to like jump on Jeff's question as well,
Yeah,
how much is being done in the islands at the moment to improve those pathways for the players? Because, you know, there's so much talent in those islands. Are those pathways constantly being improved on, or is there still a long way to go to be
yeah,
sustainable or effective?
yeah. To be honest, just my own opinion. I don't know anything about it like on their side, but my own opinion and what I've seen and what I've heard, and when I went back preparing for the World Cup, went back to Tonga and seeing how it is now, I think it's worse than when I started in terms of the development, the pathway. It's like making sure the young boys are in the right hands of good coaches, preparing them well for the life next, which is overseas, playing professionally. You know what I mean? So that's why you see the good guys come out and play for Japan or All Blacks or Australia. But what about the 60% who never got there because of you know behavior of the field, or not because of abilities, or the struggle of the field,
Okay.
because they haven't really got taught or guided through the pathway, if you know what I mean. So if you ask me, the last time I went there, it was sad to see that it's still a long way to go, and I'd hope that either someone step up or get something going to get this on track, development, or make sure there's right people in place to get the boys overseas, a better way.
It seems like that could be a hotbed of talent down there if it was run correctly, boys. Like just finding structures to, to help develop those nations to be formidable. I mean, those island teams are doing quite well in Super Rugby, to be fair. So there potentially is a lot of work, being put in. It just obviously
But
takes.
that's just jumping in there. That's exactly, when you play rugby, and I'm from South Africa, managed to live in a lot of places, but especially in France, I've really got to understand the cultures of the islanders, like playing and living, especially in France, because when I first came to Béziers, I was really taken in by island families, and they looked after you because we're both in a foreign place, and it's one of the biggest gifts I ever got from my rugby is being able to understand cultures. You really understand. You understand how important family is. Once you're in, you're in. And when you listen to this, you really do understand how ex-players help the younger players come through, like bringing them overseas, how important they are. Like, he's not his uncle, but he's called uncle. He's like an uncle. He's the chief. He will look after those guys and try to put him into clubs, and that's a mentor, isn't it? Inevitably, that's what we're trying to do. I always bring it back, but I've seen that, and you want to try be that guy. You want to try help those guys, those young guys coming through, to make it easier for them, because we pick up a lot of lessons and experiences through hardship, and But when I hear this, it's exactly what it is. It's family. It's bringing people through. It's helping, and it really does happen in Ireland culture, and it's why a lot of successful teams. I mean, I went into Toulouse, and their whole ethos of their chiefs was like Ireland guys. Joe Tukori. Every time the French coach comes in, he's looking at Joe. Joe, you want to say anything? Joe's looking around. No, it's good. He hardly speaks any English. Speaks French fluently. And who was the prop? The New Zealand prop played at Toulouse.
Palmina.
Yes.
Yeah.
After Joe, he asks the same question. Do you want to say anything? It's incredible, bro. I loved it, and that culture there of family and the same thing happened at Northampton back in the day. Lots of strong culture when they won the Premiership. A lot of strong culture, togetherness. The PC brothers. It's really special, and you get to see that especially when I moved to France. I especially saw how family oriented it is. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
just to also ask, do you guys kind of act as mentors, or do you take the young island boys under your wing if there are a few at the club that you're at? How does it kind of work? Because I know there's a great
Yeah.
deal of respect in your cultures. So do you guys kind of take the younger island boys under your wing?
Yeah, look, it's obviously it's part of us, in our culture. These are ways, if you know what I mean. So that's why I've always been like that. And to listen to you guys, like that's what it's been missing in some of the big clubs I've been in here in Europe. If you compare, look back to my time in NZ or in the Southern Hemisphere, and you listen to Toulouse and all these other clubs, to be able to succeed over and over again is it's have a culture of people, of family, of guys looking out for each other, and I felt that has been the point of difference, coming over, and I've tried every now and then to sort of give and be available for guys or younger guys, if you know what I mean, and I sort of carry that for back home. And I remember when I was younger, in the ABs, or the Highlanders or the Blues, the likes of Jerome Kaino and Sonny Bill, Ma'anon, all these people have opened the door to their house, their homes, and just even like to them by giving me hands with anything that I could ask for, if you know what I mean. So like, on and off the field, even just for advice, and they're openly happy to help, and I carry that with me in everywhere I go, and every now and then, even here in Italy, maybe I give out too much, but I believe if I can help out the next guy or with anything, even a ride or buy a couple drinks or buy a round, it could go a long way, and that's what I've been trying to create or carry with me throughout my career. And I agree 100%, if you know what I mean. So to have that in a team, to instill it into a culture of a team, I think that's the way to go. I think that's been the point of difference for me over this side.
Do you know what I can see is and exactly what you said there. There's you look at the best players from some of the islands, and they end up going, like you said, playing abroad, like yourself. So, in terms of learning about professionalism to some of these young Tongan boys who could be sort of training or playing alongside yourself and some of the other big names, it's really difficult because all three of us, from growing up in England and then these boys South Africa, when you're in the academies, you've got other boys, South African boys, English boys who are playing for England who can probably help you out. But then when the question just now was asked you, obviously about when Mikey mentioned about some young Island boys, I was trying to think. We've obviously played together for however many years now, and I can't think of one young Island boy in the academy, obviously because Tonga, Samoa is very far away, and Fiji. But like, if there was if Tonga somehow managed to keep a hold of some of these players, and then some of the young boys could learn from you guys in the flesh, then that's kind of where it all starts. And obviously, there's way further issues than that, but that is how you start culture.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah,
just from the academy and learning from some of the older boys. But just on that, Mala, on the culture side of things, we were just kind of discussing. So we've obviously played in England, played in France, played Italy, New Zealand, and Ireland too. I can't remember if it's Ireland. And are there any, major differences you feel between some of the cultures and stuff? What kind of stuff did you maybe like or dislike about certain cultures of the of places, if you can, if you know?
yeah. It's a tough question, like you know what I mean. It's very very hard um to sort of point out the differences because you go to a place and obviously they've been doing something for so long and it worked for them, and
Yeah.
especially if you're winning, you know what I mean. And if you're winning, um, that's the recipe to win. That's what everyone believes, if you know what I mean. And for me, coming from the Southern Hemisphere, like probably a lot of things I probably didn't understand is that how individual the players over this side, if you know what I mean, over this
Mm-hmm.
side of the world in the Northern Hemisphere, in terms of it's a battle between me and you type mentality. It's it's my job or your job, if you know what I mean. And I felt that way for a very long time being here. Started from France in Toulon, obviously very difficult when all the best players all over the world are in one team, you know.
Yeah.
So it's easy to see. But what I found is that you know, when it's like that, it kind of create a sort of like you separate the guys, and you know, you kind of it's hard to come together to sort of try to achieve the goal, which is winning a championship, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I've seen probably the differences coming over uh, from the Southern Hemisphere, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean. You know, every guys for themselves in that respect, not because they are selfish, you know, but obviously it's the way things that have been run here. It's the fear of not getting a job because of
Yeah.
how the mentality they put in the players. I don't think
Yeah.
the players are bad people, you know, because of how the program, the system of okay, you're not good enough. Off you go. Okay, I'll sign this one, and then 1 year. Okay, no, I'll take this other guy. You know, so this system kind of create the habits around the guys, and I feel probably the issue that what I found very challenging over this side. You know, and I came in and I tried my best to sort of just be link in the middle and work my ass off just to you know to show that I'm giving my all for the team type thing and be in the middle and not create a distance between the guys, if you know what I mean. But then at the same time, it's hard to deal with this scenario, if you know what I mean. That comes with it. I think probably that's the hardest part to take. But the culture wise, like you know, obviously everyone is different. I found and looking back, it was kind of nice to see all the differences in terms of the work ethics, the fun that comes with the game in terms of you know the French way of you know you get to relax a little bit at training. You know you do a bit of this at the gym, but at the same time they show up in before you know right before the game before kickoff, and I respect that. So there's a whole lot of different ways to sort of play the game as well. It's what I found. I think some of the differences, different brand from France to obviously Irish rugby now who are at the top doing good things. So to England with the physicality and the way they play the game with the kicking and everything. Like you know, what I've learned over these years is that you know they're all differences. Like there's so many differences in those games in way of the mindset you play. But I think at the end of the day, if you win games, I think that's all that matters. So um, yeah, I think that's some of the main things I picked up.
That's a great observation. Really, that's really. I fully agree with you, but also a lot of insights. That's sharp. That's really sharp.
Yeah, Jeff speaks a lot about, or we speak a lot about adaptability and being able to adapt. And, you know, obviously we've all been, you know, on a journey that's taken us all over the world, and that requires the ability to adapt and be resilient and things like that. How much would you say you spoke about kind of leaving Tonga at 15, going to Wesley, going through your injury? How much of that prepared you for like your journey overseas from France to England to Ireland to Italy? How much did that help you with that ability to um, adapt your game, adapt your lifestyle, um, and you know be resilient? Because there's been times when you've been overseas where you've had to show resilience. You know, whether it be you know being in form, being out of form, whatever, being away from family, whatever it may be. So how much did that early period in your life prepare you for what was to come?
Yeah, that's a good one, man. Like it's hard. it's hard because to be honest with you, man, you'll never be prepared. It's what I look back and learned. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing will ever prepare you for the next move or the next team or your next job, if you know what I mean. So you got there and there's always going to be challenge. And for me, I thought, the first move I did, the bigger move from obviously New Zealand, left everything I know, my family, friends, the dream of of living. My dream is in All Black. Felt it was my, you know, that's everything. Everyone knows me. That's my life. You know what I mean? So probably the hardest decision to leave. But then I moved on to France. Went over with a different mindset. You thought that you got the world on your hands, on your shoulder. I felt I'm the man now. I can do anything. I can move here and I can do anything in this competition. And got rocked in the first couple games, if you know what I mean. And they kind of checked me again and put me on my ass and gave me the reality is that now you have to earn the respect and start again. And took me a lot, probably 6 months through a lot of frustration to, turn on players, turn on the coaches, or turn on myself. All these things came, and I decided to sign for Wasp after 6 months, and that's what got into me. And I had 2 years for Toulon, so I had to play my whole second year knowing that I'm already signed. 6 months, a year and a half earlier of my contract, if you know what I mean. So that all of these decisions or the experiences came because I thought, I'm sorted, like I'm prepared, like I'm ready. I can go anywhere in the world, and with this mentality, like I felt probably got the best of me, if you know what I mean, and probably why I wasn't myself and why I wasn't prepared and sort of perform at probably the first couple games. And then after 6 months, I hit the ground running and back to my old me, and then moved again to Wasp. Went over there, injury games, to a new country, new competition, a different competition. You know, you just hit down, chase, hit down, and everything you run it straight, like direct up to two shoulders, and probably, obviously signed to a marquee signing to Wasp, you know, we were mid-table most of the time when we arrived. And then there's another challenge, if you know what I mean, a different challenge from, language barriers like in France to leaving your dream behind. It was all the things. And I was comfortable in France and then I left again. So so what I've been trying to explain is that, I feel to answer your question, I was never prepared for everything that came uh, earlier on in my career, if you know what I mean. I felt some of my learnings now, and if you're gonna ask Marcus, probably didn't really see it now, but I felt more calmer now and more open, more adaptable. This is what the word you used before. How can you be adaptable? Like now, I'm way more adaptable and played my best rugby here in Benetton. In terms of being free, being open minded. I've challenged many times by the coaches here, the players, even Jacob Umama. I played with a few times, challenged by him, and I've never in my career have opened up to them in that way, if you know what I mean. So all of these experiences kind of helped me throughout my career, and even Marcus can tell. When I was in Wasp, you get really tense all the time, really always get pissed off every little actions, because obviously I was determined to make an impact, to make a difference for the boys, for the club. But at the same time, they got the best of me by being cloud, my decision making, by all because I'm not prepared or I wasn't being adaptable or because I wasn't open minded to being in a different culture to being open to the boys, to listen, to learn a new game, if you know what I mean. So to answer your question, man, like it took me many years to be adaptable. It took me many years to listen, to be open, and to figure out how to approach a new culture. And I think that's why the move to Italy was way easier than all of them.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Mala, with the word adaptability, a lot of the time people go to a different club. I have as well, and the first thing you want to do is you want to get you always want to get man of the match, right? In pretty much any game you play. But when you come to a new club, you want to make an impact straight away. You want to impress everybody, and that can be really frustrating if you don't feel like you've done that. And in terms of like the adaptability of going to a new club, sometimes patience can be the best thing. And not patience in terms of just waiting for something to happen. Patience in terms of you still do your same processes, you work just as hard, but you kind of are relaxed in the thought that, look, I don't have to force anything. Like you kind of, you'll believe that you're a good player, you're a good player, and then things will eventually happen. And it's one of those things that I've been there. And also, like you said, I could kind of probably see it in yourself in the difference between Wasps compared to here in terms of like you've still got the exact same professionalism and you work just as hard to win. It's almost like now you seem a little bit more, and maybe that comes with age because I think I'm the same, a little bit more patience, but with the same work rate. Um, and in terms of like adaptability and moving clubs, it comes through, I guess, experience because everyone wants to win, and sometimes you try and rush that big time, and even more difficult for maybe um, if you go to a new country and it's a whole new way of thinking, way of playing, and thinking things through. But yeah, it comes with age, comes with learning, and the important thing is um, not to lose. When I say patience, I don't mean just waiting for something to happen. You still need to try and make it happen, but can almost like relax a little bit, and not try and get those try and build up pressure on yourself. Otherwise, it can be difficult to cope with sometimes. I've been there plenty of times before.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, and even like, we can obviously look at ourselves as well. Like, you talk about patience and stick to the process, and things will come. But at the same time, sometimes like I look back and from learning from experiences that sometimes our uh, we get to sometimes it's our mindset as well that kind of cloud our patience and our ability to play or to see things around a new place as well. Uh, Even like as small as your thoughts as well, saying that, well, back in my club, old club, or well, in my country is what we do, and I feel like those little phrase or saying or those little micro chat to yourself prior to being at work or whatever, I feel like kind of affect sometimes your performance of the field. I believe we can all be different. You know what I mean? We can see things differently, but for my own experience, I feel that's where the negative energy comes, or if you know what I mean. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
explain is that like some of the smallest or the tiny or the little thoughts in your mind or in my mind when I changed clubs, it's what affected me on the field at times. Because we used to do this way, or we run this play this way, and then what I picked up over the years is that we learn with age, but I wish that I could learn it quicker because what a player I could have been is what I always say. But if there's a young boy out there or young players who are coming through, if they can have the right mindset earlier on, be coachable, be adaptable, and learn new ways to do things. There's always plenty of ways to do things. Once you have that mindset, I think the patience comes. Things will just start to click. You can excel in any country or any competition. Is what I've learned. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Sport is brutal because just like you said, you get to the age when you're a bit older, and that's when you think to yourself, if I knew this when I was younger,
Yeah.
You know what I
Would be
mean?
nice.
It's true though. It's like it's
Yeah.
brutal, and then it's the only
Yeah.
probably one of the only jobs where that happens because you
Yeah.
kind of get to a lot of jobs you can sit in for
Yeah.
a long time, and you hit that sort of
Yeah.
mark 32,
Yeah.
33, and you're like, I feel,
Yeah.
and you'll always learn. You'll never know everything, but at
Yeah.
the same time, you're like you just said, those learning things when you're like, if I'd known this earlier, or you see some
Yeah.
kids now, to be fair, though, coming into academies and they seem switched on, but no, it's just interesting. Like you said, you just learn so much, and then when you
Yeah.
get to the time when you're finished, you're like, I probably feel like I know a
Yeah.
lot. But
Yeah.
No,
it is what it is.
so go ahead, Jeffy.
Yeah, just on that whole point then, and listening to that about adaptability. Obviously, as a coach now, I'm driving that a lot. I'm trying to create an environment or a culture where players, I'm helping, but I'm teaching, or you're trying to coach adaptability. So this is a question for you, Mal. Like, you've been in one of the best cultures in the world, like in terms of performance. It's the ABs, the All Blacks. Let's talk about that. Now, you with all this knowledge, all this experience, take us back to that moment when you're in there. Why is that environment so special? Are you guys, this is my point of view, you guys are obviously doing things about being adaptable on the pitch, learning decision making in terms of the ref culture. So what is it like being in there, and why is it so special? What are you guys doing? What would you say are the three secrets to that culture, and why has it been the most successful sports team in the last 20 years?
Yeah. Tough. Yeah. Can't give out all the.
No.
There's probably a
We're
I'm joking
sending.
now.
You must talk now.
Yeah.
Let me,
Hey,
let
you
me,
Tongan now, brother. Talk
Let
on.
me get out my book.
we're gonna, we're gonna send
Yeah.
this to Russia. Russia.
Nah. To be fair, man, like, it's a long time now since I've been away, and I know that when I got in to that team, many things never changed from 20 years before. Some of the staff has been there 20 years, trainers, mentor, you know what I mean? So they kept everything in-house and kept it for a very long time. But what I've picked up as a player, and learned is that they always make sure that all of us believe uh, ourselves first, if you know what I mean. Know who you are. You can't be someone else, if you know what I mean. Like, before you go in as a young kid, you kind of sit down with the senior groups or the management or even the boss and talk about why you're here, why you do what you do. So once you understand all these things, everything else starts to fall into place. The work side of it. Why are you doing extras, or why you want to do more? Why you want to wear the black jersey? If you know what I mean. So understand. I think for me as a player, probably the most or something that I took out of that experience is that I understood why I played the game, and everything after that. I was never I loved the training and everything like that because of it. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's the hardest part in our sport. Contact every week and preparing for a game, and you get sore, all these things. But then you love it because you know why you do the game. You play the game at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And you understood why you play the game for. For the people around you, for your family, and all of these things. And for me, for any young kid or anyone out there who's try to make it to professional, is that try find your reason, understand who you are, find your reason why you play the game, and you go from there, and everything else will start to be easier. The process and everything like that, because this is why you're doing what you do. If it makes sense.
Definitely. Mate, it's an important message, just not just for players, but for coaches. Because I just think of when you're talking about that, and you saying that when you came in, sort of had a chat with everyone, and that chat made you, one, feel welcome, and then two, understand what you're doing there. But then also from a coach's point of view, that makes the coaches know more about you, know exactly what you want to do in it, and like I feel like something that's massively underrated at the moment is how much a coach knows their player, understands their player, and then even the coach can then get across maybe what they want from a player. Because what was it that you just said? Now you said something that was don't like you don't need to try to be somebody else, but say the English rugby at the moment is quite like it's a lot of kicking.
Mm.
If you're not that type of player, say you come into the team and you think that's how you need to play, but you might be in the team for a completely different reason. And I've been
Yeah.
in teams before where, bro, I'm not like I don't enjoy kick chase. But
Mm.
I'll do it because obviously that's what we need to do. But it's better when I've had coaches that have turned around to me and said, "Look, this is our game plan, but we might see you being sat differently in there." And then it makes you
Mm.
feel like you're important, and then also you feel important, two, you know your role, and then also you kind of start one, knowing your coach and feeling backed by your coach. Like it's I
Mm.
feel like all those things are important. Maybe it's something to do like that sort of culture in the All Blacks. Obviously, it's nothing completely brand new. People do that sort of stuff, but I feel like that is so important just when you first come into a team.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Mm.
Mala, I wanted to just touch on the All Black environment as well, because obviously you played in an era with incredible rugby players. Dan Carter, Richie McCaw, Ma Nonu, Sonny Bill, Kieran Reid, they were all part of that team. How much did those guys drive like that culture forward, the standards, the work ethic? Like when you walked into the room, did you know what was expected of you? You've obviously spoken about how the coaches, you had those conversations about why you're here, what you need to be doing, etc., etc. But those great players, how much did they drive that environment forward? What was it like being around players like that?
Yeah. Probably at first I was shooting myself every day, right? Like, like because some of them played when I was probably at primary school. You know what I mean? You watch them on TV and from another country. But you just feel the temperature in the room every day when you're around those boys. It's you know when you're there to work, you work or meeting or whatever it is. You can feel the vibration of the connection that they bring. They don't. Some of those boys, um, you know, don't really talk a lot, but when they say something, everyone listens. And they drove the team. I remember mostly led by the leadership group, which is all those boys. You know what I mean? So nothing new. Marcus and all you boys. We all experience this in so many teams now. Um, the get driven by the leadership group and fed to the coaches and get driven by the players. It's been done in many clubs, yeah, in the modern game now. But what I found back then is that I'm sure they still nowadays is that the mindset we have as players or even the leadership group back then in their environment is that when no one's watching is that's when you do the work, if you know what I mean. Because I found in many clubs I've been here, uh, is that yes, everyone do their job or lead by example when everyone's watching. But what do you do when no one's looking, or when no one's watching you, or if you know what I mean, or when the coaches are not around? Does your leader still lead, or is he amongst the guys now? It's why I found the little point of difference at times. And I found the quality of the training, the intensity, it was immense, like crazy, uh, on top, and that's why it brought out the best of the players. And for me as a young kid, like just being around it was a lot, but you can tell the differences now looking back. If you know what I mean, it's those fine detail, it's the small things. It comes down to um, you know getting something for the player next to you, or pick up his bag, or waiting until he sit down, or you don't sit on the wrong seat on the bus, if you know what I mean. Or there's the smallest jobs off the field as well. So I think and all led by the leadership group. So all of those small things is what I found it brought us together, and that's why we at that time perform on the field. You kind of create a culture of one, trust in the guys that they'll do the job for you, and you trust your teammates. So, but yeah,
That's a great point, because Mal, what you just told me is so true. Everyone has the blueprint. Everyone's gone to watch the All Blacks train. Everyone, when they saw the Kiwis cleaning the sheds, everyone starts cleaning the sheds. You know what I mean? After games, it's the same with leadership group. Everyone finds out the almost the way it's done, and then they want to implement it. It's a craze to find out what's the new thing. But what people forget is these little things that don't go out of fashion are done so well, like respect, detail, trust. So when a coach comes in and he says, "Okay, listen, I've got a leadership group, 5 guys. These are the 5 guys." Most clubs I've gone into, the coaches don't actually trust that leadership group to take that. Take it. Go. It's yours. Because when they feel the pressure of all these things we're talking about, especially in the Western culture, European games, everyone's changing all the time. It's like everyone's watching their block. Everyone's going to get fired. Everyone's going to, so everyone gets fear. So that fear, I believe, spreads through the team from the top.
100%.
So when your coach has got that fear, he's spreading it to the players because he doesn't trust them. He doesn't trust them to go away and do the work, or trust them to give them the keys to the car. It's always like, yeah, you guys are the leadership. But we're going to do it this way. And that's the way it's going to be. And then they're like, but and then it causes that. So I always felt, going through my time in France, my time in England, Sevens, and now coaching, the biggest thing is that letting go and being able to give responsibility. But when you give a player responsibility, he needs time at the wicket, right? He needs time to learn. He needs to become a Kieran Reid, a Monononu, a Jerome Kano, time at the wicket. So when I hear that, it's like there's nothing new. There's nothing new here, but it's very difficult to achieve it, because you've got to have full confidence and you've got to give full respect. And that's in the modern culture. It's all me. Instagram, my image, my brand.
100%. Yeah.
Before you is very difficult.
Bro, there's so many fake things in rugby teams, or like certain teams now. It's crazy. Like you just said now, leadership group is a key one for that, because like leadership groups, I think they're so important, man. But if there's no point in having them if the coach isn't going to listen to them. What's the point? They've just put it in there because they just think, oh, look, I've seen this team do it, cleaning the change rooms or whatever. They've seen it on Instagram once, and then they think, oh, sweet, that team's doing it. But people are getting forced through that kind of stuff. That's not, like, if that's not natural, or they know the reason why, what's the point in doing it? It's not going to help the team if it's just fake and you've made a leadership group. Like, my whole thing is, when you set things up, you've got to understand what the point is by setting them up. So like, there's got to be reasoning behind it. It's not just because somebody else is doing it. You don't want anything fake being in place, because then that just leads to people starting bullshitting about, why are we doing this? Why is he making us do this? He's not even explained it why. Before you ask him the question, one thing I'd say about Mala is just how he's, just in general, he's a very good team man, in terms of like the stuff that he said. He will always try to help people. He'll always try, like, we chat a lot, try and give each other advice and stuff. And he's very, very professional. I think that's something that maybe, people just look at, I don't know, Instagram or some highlights and stuff, but people don't see some of the stuff that Mala will do. His homework, always knows his stuff, and role and things like that. And he's a good teammate, and he's tough as fuck.
Well, just second that, Marcus. Like when I arrived at Wasps, Mala was one of the first boys to make me feel really comfortable, and he didn't have to do that. He's an All Black and an unbelievable rugby player, so it's like really testament to his character to go out of his way to speak to someone he didn't know and didn't need to. So no, he is an incredible teammate. But just to close off, Mala, because we know you've got a young family, Marcus is and Jeff's got to build the best sevens program in Europe. So no,
Baby, you guys have got your babies. I got my baby.
yeah. No, so it's a pretty generic question, I guess. But we touched on the All Blacks.
Yeah.
We'd be remiss to leave out a big part of your life, or who you are essentially, is Tonga. And obviously those rules came in which allowed the boys to kind of play for their home nations. How special was that for you? Because you had obviously said you dreamt of being an All Black, or you were so, that was the goal when you got to New Zealand. Now you have the opportunity to play for Tonga. But as someone who is a capped All Black, was it a difficult decision? Or was it just, yes, I get an opportunity to play for my home nation?
Yeah.
So essentially, was it an easy call for you to go and play for that famous red jersey?
Yeah. The process obviously took longer, because the decisions and the debate for over the years, and throughout all those years, I've already played here in Europe, and there was no chance I'm going back to NZ in terms of, you know, I my main goal is to look after my family and to have a future, what I mean, a better life for me and my family. So by having that, it's not playing in New Zealand at all. And that was my decision, and I've signed 2 years in France to return home after and negotiate to go home. And obviously, financial wise, WASP was the option for me, and I took it. And although these 5 years of being in Europe is, you know, kind of made me realize a lot about life as well. For me, what I've learned is that anything can happen to a player. There's more to life than rugby, in terms respectfully, in terms of you know your family. Now I have a little family who's going to pay for their school when I'm done. If I break my leg tomorrow, who's going to? All of these questions came to my mind. If you know what I mean, it's easy for some because they grew up with something or with in overseas. But for me, there was now or never. There's I have to get this done, and that's why it brought me here overseas. So I couldn't go back to play for NZ. But I've had all these experiences, and I'm very very young, and that's why it came to my mind that why not do what I do, which is look after my family and still play here in Europe, play professionally, and go back and represent my home country where I grew up, where my mom is still living, and some of my siblings are still living. Yes, I've done, played my dream and represent New Zealand and everyone back home with honor, and I gave it everything. Every time I played, I gave everything, if you know what I mean. But I chose to make a living after, and I can still do that here in Europe and also play for Tonga, and that's why I made the switch. One, obviously I couldn't go back and play for NZ, and two, to obviously make my family proud. Should have seen their faces when I returned home and played for Tonga, and people around, how much they love the team and how much they start to get back into rugby now because of the boys, if you know what I mean. So for me, very very special, very cool to be back and play for Tonga. Uh, Decision was very very hard, but at the same time, the whole experience, was very very difficult at the same time as well, because how do you go from being in this team to being here in Tonga with one pair of shorts for training, one t-shirt for the gym, and you rewash it every night? How do you go from here to getting paid 600 a trip? How do you live like this, if you know what I mean? But for me, all this difficult situation and experiences have made it special, because I can look back after years from now and say I've done it, and it's been very special to do it for both teams and for both families, if you know what I mean. Because New Zealand is always going to be home for me as well, and the people around that brought me up through the system and everything, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was very, very difficult but special.
Thank you so much, Tox, and
Mm.
thank you so much for giving up your time tonight. And I wish you and your young family well going forward, and I hope you
Mm.
finish the season strong.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for
Solomon.
having
Thank
me.
you.
Cheers, my brother.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Eh?
Thank you, mate.